What up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Garrett Ross, alongside my man Jack Mackenzie, and
we have the video inputs messed up.
We have the video inputs all messed up.
Oh,
and
boy.
That is all good.
Keep vamping for a little while.
Keep vamping for a little. So first off, I want to give you mad props for your shirt, because when I initially saw this, I'm used to you rolling in here like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you're all prepped to go play basketball and ball out. And, you know, one day it'll be like an Oklahoma shirt, and then the next day it'll be an A&M shirt, and you'll keep rolling. I thought this was an Oklahoma State shirt at first. And then I realized you were rocking some Percy Jackson and the Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah.
Or no, well, not the Half-Blood, whatever the hell he is, Percy Jackson. So, what was your main event be if you had to go to the Camp Half-Blood?
I don't know. I'd love to get into the sword fighting, but like, dude, these cameras are really messed up right now. Oh man.
But
yeah. Sorry about this. Let me see if I can figure this out.
So on the bright side, though.
Okay, we
do have a lot of things to go over. We have a lot of things to talk about today, whether it be March Madness, the Pac-12 and their TV deal, and even get into some SEC talk, because I am a loyal SEC fan, or I wouldn't say loyal SEC fan. I'm an LSU fan at heart. And so, I mean, I ride or die with the SEC at times, but I'm really just not on board with some of the things that are starting to transpire and take place over there within the conference. So I want to get into that as well, man, but I want to really dive into this March Madness stuff. But today, the Pac-12, and I think this has really kind of been the largest vocal point when you're looking at sports in general, is what the Pac-12 is going to do with their TV negotiations, and where they're at. Is the Big 12 going to be able to jump in and grab some of those teams? They were supposed to meet on Tuesday, and that meeting did not take place. This was supposed to be a Pac-12 board meetings with members of presidents and everybody going on to kind of negotiate where they're at, because as we know right now, Fox is off the board, but you're looking at, can you somehow find some room, wiggle into what time slots are left with ESPN, which really isn't much, you know, given that they've already locked up the deal with the ACC. They're going to have some other games going on as well, including the Big 12. But right now, you're in a situation where if you're the Pac-12, you're trying to figure out, okay, how can we get in a situation where we can find some sort of, whether it's a couple of big games a week on the ESPN, or more than likely you're going to end up going streaming. So they did meet today, and John Wilner, one of the guys that most Pac-12 loyalists go to for their information, when now, I mean, it's kind of hit and miss with who people are believing, said the Pac-12 board met this morning and presidents received a positive update, and the process will continue, and a next board meeting is scheduled for the middle of April. This is the same shit we have been hearing over and over again.
So it's going to be that kind of podcast
for the past kind of months. Like, I'm just so sick of this talk, dude. Like, this expansion stuff has gotten so out of control, and it's like, it's tribalistic. I don't care if the Pac-12 stays together. I don't care if the Pac-12 falls apart. As somebody who covers the Big 12, I think it would be cool as hell to go to Arizona and cover some games. I love that state. I think it would be cool to go to Colorado and cover some states, some games. I think it would be awesome. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I don't care. But, I mean, there's a lot going on right now. What are your thoughts as far as some of the comments that came out last week from the Arizona AD and
Robert Robbins, the
president, and where they're at right now in Wildcat country?
Oh man, where do I even start? I do think the situation is getting clearer. I definitely think the openness from Robert Robbins was very nice to see, to hear. But I also don't think it was anything we already don't know.
Exactly.
Like, I can see why you're getting tired of it, because it just seems like it's really we need to get our TV deal, so we have a number in front of us to decide against the Big 12 number. Now, which schools are more likely to jump? Which schools have a lower buffer where it's like, well, I'm not going to accept $3 million less, versus I'm not going to accept $5 million less, or I'm not going to accept $8 million less. Like, where their number is changes by the school, I think. But overall, I think they're all just in this wait and see, have both numbers in front of us, and then figure it out kind of mode.
Yeah, to me, like, at this point, the numbers have got to be significant. And that's the thing that's mind-boggling, because I feel like the Pac-12 will get a deal done, and I think it will be mostly streaming. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I think that it fits.
I think the Pac-12 has a problem with that.
Okay, and I understand.
Like anything more than 50-50, I think that's a deal breaker. Like, the money is probably the most important part, but if it's you get the same money and you are more than 50% on streaming, if you're even 55% streaming, I think that makes it that much tougher to sign that deal and stay in the Pac-12.
Well, I get that, but I feel at this point, like, the Pac-12 is already one of those conferences that it's I would say its viewership is selected. Like you have a group of people that want to go there. And for years, it's because it's out of their control, right? Because most of their games come on late. They're further behind than everybody else. So I feel like if you put all of their games on streaming, you're still going to garner the same attention that you've always gotten. What you're going to miss out on is the few people that carry over from watching another game across the nation that ends at 8:39, and then maybe we'll dive over. But still, if you're wanting to go out of your way, I think it's not going to be difficult for most people to go click a button and watch a Pac-12 game. Like, I don't see that it's that complicated.
It's not that complicated, but it's not a brand building endeavor. It's important to have those casual viewers. It's important to have people tune in without knowing they're tuning in. That helps you build your brand. It really does. And when you're off on streaming, I find this watching my own teams and other sports where it's only streaming, like ESPN Plus, or like baseball, soccer, whatever.
Right.
I can't roll from one event into the next event, into the next event. It's always, I might end up on my phone at the end because they're like doing the post-game recap. I'm listening, but I'm not watching because I already saw it all. And instead of rolling into another event, all of a sudden I realize, I've been scrolling through Reddit for like 15 minutes. Why is nothing playing on my TV? I look up, it's the your event has ended screen on ESPN Plus. I'm like, you literally could have hooked me into a whole nother game for two entirely different schools that I do not care about. And I probably would have stayed and been a viewer. And who knows? Maybe some person goes off in soccer, scores a hat trick, or we've got a pitcher who's throwing a no-hitter. And all of a sudden I'm invested. And then I know about that team. And then I think, hey, maybe I come back and watch more of that team. That's what you're losing on streaming.
But see, I come up from it from a different perspective because I watch a lot of hockey, and most of the hockey I watch is on ESPN Plus. So therefore, when I go through, how I watch it is, say there's a game going on and the first period ends of the Stars and the Canucks. Well, then I'm going back out, and then there's a display there of like the 5 games going on. I'll find which one's the best, and I'll pop into it. So I don't think that it's that big. I think if
you're a much more active viewer then.
Right.
I don't think that everyone, I just think there's a pretty even split between active viewers and passive viewers. And passive viewers are that much more likely to hang around. They're not like, they want the TV to do the work for them. We're lazy people.
Right, but I think if you understand, I feel like the Pac-12 is looking at this saying, okay, we understand our market. We understand the people around us. And I feel like if you invest in the future and you invest in what most of your people are accustomed to, then you're going to build a culture of fans who understand and have this established mindset of how you're going to watch something. I don't think it's...
Miss me with that future shit, God damn it.
Dude,
I'm sitting over here on my couch trying to drink
Miller Lite. All right, exactly. And then go watch the SEC.
I'm in my goddamn truck stop conference, son.
Exactly.
Come on.
But see, I don't think that you're going to... I feel like... I don't know. I just one of those fringe things in society where, like, even if you go back to March Madness, right? Like I noticed this during March Madness because there was a commercial, and it was the whole theme of the commercial was the power's going out, like the world's ending, but you can still watch your phone on the game.
Yep.
I mean, you watch the game on your phone. Okay, that's the model. And I understand it's got to start somewhere. So that's where I'm coming from the Pac-12 is like I see the concept of it, and I think that in the grand scheme of things, it can work. Somebody's got to do it, right? Like somebody's got to jump in, and if they're in a position right now where the linear options are just not there, screw it, man. Just give it a shot. What do you really have to lose at this point? Like you already have half of your it's divided within the conference. You have half the teams trying to figure out their future and how they can get out. Like, what are you really going to lose in the next 5 years?
What are you going to lose?
Yeah, okay, get into that.
What are you going to lose? You have still a legitimate chance at being that number 3 conference. As much as Big 12 fans don't want to believe it, as much as ACC fans don't want to believe it, the Pac-12 has every freaking chance of being that third-place conference right now if they get a good deal and stick together. If that deal pushes them off to the corner enough, whether it's through streaming or through money or through a combination of both, they are not winning that bronze medal. And that bronze medal was pretty important to Robert Robbins in what he said. Quoting from the Dennis Dollar article, this is a quote of Robert Robbins in that article. I've never tried in my life to win third place for anything. If we get a solid bronze medal in this thing, it's the best we can do for right now. Most people have us dead. They have us completely, it's like an airplane crashing.
Like an airplane crashing. Okay. Look,
there are stakes to this.
No, I get that. I feel like it's, in a sense, I feel like it's external things that are causing. I just feel like at this point,
the money value, the dollars, like whatever comes after the dollar sign, that doesn't completely make it the bronze medal or off the podium. That's what I'm trying to say here with streaming. Streaming, if your deal is too much streaming, it can take maybe you get $1 million more. Maybe you get the exact same numbers as Big 12.
Right.
If it's through streaming and that doesn't turn out how everyone hopes it will in the Pac-12, which I've got to be clear when I say this, streaming could turn out to be great. I do not know. I don't have faith in it. I generally am not a risk taker in my life. Some might call that conservative, but apparently that's a word I can't throw around. I'm not a risk taker. I don't feel like streaming's the right move. I don't think it's going to blow up in the future. That's why I'm hesitant about it. That's why I feel like it's a risky move for the Pac-12. But that's what I'm trying to say is it's not just the dollar sign. It's not just the number value. It's all streaming plays a role in what makes it the true bronze medal.
I'm very much a risk taker, and I go against the grain. I do believe that streaming is the future, and I believe that eventually that's going to be where 95% of stuff is at. I think that linear options will always be there, especially probably more so it will probably revert back to, you won't relate to this, but coming up as a 80s, 90s child, like literally in dirt poor, you had like 5 channels. Like, seriously.
No,
so, and I think that's what you'll hold on to.
PBS, man.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, I think you're going to have, like, you'll always have your core Fox, CBS, ABC, NBC will always be there. But I think for the most part, streaming it's inevitable. And while right now it seems like it's a large obstacle and it's something foreign, I do see the upside in it. And I know right now that's probably risky given the market, given the current landscape of this economy in whole across the country and all these big companies doing layoffs and stuff. But I do feel like ultimately somebody's going to be the conference that does this. And I think the Big 12 was the conference that did this with ESPN Plus. Like they kind of dipped their toes in it a little bit. But, it's not for everybody, so I do understand that perspective of it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, something's going to happen, and some teams are already kind of apprehensive. Who do you think's the first school right now, kind of even going off of what Robbins was saying? So it's obviously Arizona is somebody who's considering this. Who are, other than Arizona, because one of the quotes or one of the things he said that stood out to me was when he was talking about Arizona State and how they're not necessarily joined at the hip. Like it's kind of like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, right?
It's very weird because what he essentially said was, we are not obligated to go together wherever we go, but we are in lockstep, as in the leadership get along and agree and have the same vision on a lot of things, despite not having an obligation.
Yeah.
So going off of that, Robin's comments definitely make me feel better for the Pac-12. They definitely do. Like, as much as I want to take, no way you hear talk of it's going to be all streaming. Nobody is going for that. Over 50%, no, I don't think so. That's a direct quote of Robbins. And I still think the Pac-12 is in better shape after reading this whole article because he just seemed to be very methodical, logical, thought out. ready to go once he gets all the data in front of him from the numbers. A school I don't think is quite there, quite so stable, is Colorado.
See, that makes – so Colorado is intriguing. And I really – honestly, full disclosure, I don't really know too much the smoke coming out of Colorado.
Same here.
So, but I feel like they're one who – because it seems like they've been quiet, but they find – to me, they come across as like a school who would be apprehensive to kind of crawl back to where you ran away from. But at the same time, I think the hiring of Dion and all of the exposure that's going to bring, I mean, obviously they're going to be televised. Their spring football game is going to be televised on ESPN, which is crazy because most regular season Pac-12 games probably won't, but Colorado's damn spring game will. That's the mind-boggling thing of this all. But I feel like with his connections to the state of Texas, that probably makes the people, the pulse within the athletic department more interested in coming back than if he wasn't the head coach. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. And I also think that that just overall, I think the money is going to have to make that much more sense for them now that they have Dion on the hook.
Right.
All the exposure that they can get from Dion, I don't think that makes up for what they're spending on him and what he will ask them to spend in facility upgrades and NIL and all of this other stuff.
Yeah, but I think also you need to be realistic if you're while facility upgrades and stuff are necessary. I think any coach is going to want that. I think at the same time,
Dion can push for them harder.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, you've got to be realistic with yourself if you're the AD of Colorado or even the donors that this dude isn't here for the long term. So I would be kind of tentative to just go all in on giving him everything he wants, per se.
I understand that, but whoever comes after him, if he does a good enough job to move on and move up, whoever comes
Which
after
is the ultimate goal.
Should be better than anyone they could have gotten before Dion.
No, I mean, that's fact.
So Dion's going to push, but I think if you're smart as a university, you see that push as this is going to force us to be better. That way we can be better even after he's gone.
Right.
So I just think that's really interesting. But one of our bosses, Brian Etheridge, this is the way he put it on SicEm365.com. He's been locked in on this. He really has. Stuff. He's been networking the heck out of stuff. He's got some good sources. He said, most volatile Pac-12 institution is Colorado. The Buffs have invested in Dion, spent some money they didn't have raised, and will be tasked to raise even more. Adding a few million may be enough if the exposure isn't. Adding a few million may be enough if the exposure isn't there. He worded that wrong. They also know how the story ends if they hesitate and Arizona State jump before them. That's an underrated part of all of this. If you believe the Pac-12 is going to break up, is how many will the Big 12 take?
So
how many can they take?
Okay. So you think that if Arizona and Arizona State jump first and Colorado will get left out? Is that what that comment's supposed to mean?
There's a possibility there. I think any fan in the Big 12 right now would say, no, we'll take 4. Absolutely. I think the Big 12 takes 4 if they can.
Yeah, I don't think they would leave Colorado out if Arizona and Arizona State came though. I don't see that.
There are possibilities out there. I'm not saying I believe in them much, but it's not something to just shoo away. I mean, you still have Oregon and Washington. They might be discontents, but they're better take than Colorado, both of them. So if you get the package of the Arizonas and then Oregon and Washington are like, we want in.
I don't think that'll ever happen. I do not think that at this point, I don't think there's.
My point is not that it will or won't happen. My point is it's, however small of a possibility that schools have to worry about. There are 6 of them. They're not taking all 6.
No, they're not. And I think that's been pretty abundantly clear at this point that they're not. But so if you're Arizona State, I mean, and Arizona leaves, then what do you do? I mean, do you think they follow them, or are they just going to kind of peep the situation and say, well, we'll stay here in the pack?
They follow them in a heartbeat. I do not see Arizona leaving and Arizona State staying. It doesn't make sense to me. You lose your number 1 in-state rival. You know your rival's getting more money, and your own conference is going to suffer because of their departure.
No, that's fine. That's a good point.
It's not so much the direct like screw you A&M Texas kind of thing, but it's you just don't want to have that separation.
Well, what the hell? Like, where is San Diego State and where is SMU and all this crap? Like, because you were on board. Like, there was all the talk. They're coming. You have Kliavkoff hanging out at SMU basketball games, and then now it's just like nothing. Like, there's been so many distractions from the situation that, like, I don't even know what the hell is going on anymore.
I think the best way to put it is that the entire Pac-12 views SMU and San Diego State as non-additive where they're at currently. If they have every single current member, obviously USC and UCLA are gone.
Yeah.
If they have every single current member remaining stay in, they are not additive. They do not bump the money up.
No.
They take away. The second you lose anyone, that's when you start looking at them as maybe not additive, but they don't subtract and they stabilize.
So it's like Puerto Rico to America or all those other countries. Like, you just hold on to them. They're like not states, but you just leave them sitting out there. Like, we'll just kind of halfway deal with you.
That's an interesting way to put it. And as a geography and history nerd, I don't think it's entirely accurate, but maybe.
Okay.
It's one of those things where I think SMU and San Diego State, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
So I think they're perfectly happy to be considered, 1A, 1B for let's bring you in if we need you. And I think the entire Pac-12 is just hoping, I hope we don't need them.
Right.
Because if they need them, that means
That's
someone's
bad.
left.
That's all bad.
That means someone's left. Those two are not getting into the Pac-12 unless someone leaves.
Right. Well, it's all madness, man. It's insane. And so we'll see. I guess right now we're probably looking at another couple weeks before we hear any sort of update. And I'm sure there's going to be wars on Twitter and everybody else still going at it. But we'll find out. I guess it's just a waiting game right now till mid-April, see if anything comes of this, but who knows. But there is some current sports going on, Jack. It is March. The Sweet 16 has been set. We had a bunch of upsets. We've had some coaching moves across college basketball, and we're going to get into that next here on the College Chaos Podcast.
Let's see if we can fix the cameras. welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Jack, this is Garrett, and in the true spirit of the title of this podcast, the name of this podcast, the College Chaos Podcast, we're going to dive into some of this March Madness chaos.
Let's do it.
Down. So, Garrett, start us off. Who was your standout team from March Madness this weekend?
Ooh, standout team, man. All right, so I'll probably have to go with Arkansas. Because we kind of talked about this a little bit, and it might have been off the air, when Kansas was going to be matched up with Arkansas. I think it was last week when we were looking at Kansas's road and having an opportunity to watch Arkansas play Baylor. I know you were there firsthand. I thought that their athleticism and their depth, the way they can get around the court, could give Kansas some troubles. Obviously, I think the elephant in the room is Bill Self was not coaching. You can put into that what you want. I think that and I'm blank on his name, but the coach that filled in for him could be a head coach anywhere.
It was Norm Roberts.
Norm Roberts, that's right. I think he could fill in and be a coach anywhere. So I'm not putting that much of an emphasis on the coaching and not having Bill Self there. While that was an issue, Arkansas hands down they played a hell of a game, dude. So shout out to them. Shout out to Eric Musselman, because at times they can him especially can get in his own way. But yeah, I think that was probably my standout performance from a team as a whole.
So you've hopped on the must bus.
Must bus, man.
Yeah,
until this week, because UConn is going to violate them.
Oh, okay. That's
they had their moment. They had their little fun in the sun. They are getting violated by UConn.
Oh my god, the word choice, man. Oh my.
Yes.
Oh geez. I mean, I definitely picked UConn over Kansas. I don't think it can be underrated the difference Self can make. I mean, it was a 1-point game. That was a 1-point final score line, and I mean, Self is a multi-time championship winning coach. Like,
I'm sure, there probably could have been like a timeout, or, I'm sure there's some technical thing that you could go back and dial in and say maybe having him there could have been a difference. But at the end of the day, man, the players make the plays, the coaches coach. Arkansas made more plays.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like, I'm not trying to take away from Arkansas on that. They beat one heck of a team. After watching both teams here, I got to watch Kansas in person twice this year. And I got to see Arkansas in person once. All of those games against Baylor. So I don't know if that helps or hinders my views of them. But Arkansas is so freaking athletic and long. I do think that Kansas is more athletic than Baylor, so I thought they'll get it done. Baylor got it done at home. I think Kansas can get it done on neutral court, and they nearly did. That was a heck of a game, and But I got to say, my standout from the first weekend, it's a tough pick for me, but I think I really have to go with Princeton, man.
You can't go wrong with Princeton.
Like, there was something in me, they've got that basketball history, the whole Princeton offense, the back cutting and all of that. It was just like, do I pick them over Arizona? Is that my crazy upset?
Don't even bring that up.
Mr. Arizona champion.
Dude, okay, look. I like Arizona. And I was thinking about this morning, because I don't know if in your generation, but coming up, we used to have you would always have your college football team, and you would have your college basketball team, because not every school is like, they're not every school. Very rarely do you have a good college basketball program, college football program. So my college basketball team was always Arizona. And I remember watching the Bibby National Championship, and they're beating Kentucky. Lute Olson, I love Arizona. And so I was like, okay, this has got to be the year, right? You finally have it clicking. Everything looks good. And I probably got a little cocky. I got a little cocky, because realistically, if Arizona would have made it through, I think Bama would have beat them. I cannot stomach Alabama winning the national championship this year. I
can't either.
I have no interest in that. So I probably went with my heart instead of being realistic.
We'll get to all that later.
But so anyway, I took Arizona. Shout out to Princeton. You did your thing. You sent Arizona packing, and you ruined my bracket day one. So thank you for all of that.
Yes, thank you, Princeton, because that was entertaining as heck.
No, it was
not.
And
then you go and you back it up against Missouri. I love it. It's one of those They're just a really solid fundamental team. Not saying they don't have good athletes, not saying they don't have a great coach. It's just one of those, it just feels like basketball in its purest form, and they're causing chaos. Like, it's not Lob City. It's not like any flash, really. It's just, we're going to go out there
it's Spurs.
and we're going to go beat you.
It's like the pop Spurs, dude, because you don't have necessarily the most athletic players, but you have people who are disciplined, they understand their role, and they excel at their role at a level where most people can't. And you could take a 3-star who plays lockdown defense up against a 5-star, and I might take the 3. That's what you're dealing with, right? You're dealing with a lot of worker ants who know their role and excel, and hats off to Princeton, man. The game with Creighton is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and honestly, I really hope they make it through that, because if Bama and Princeton meet in the Elite Eight, that's the ultimate, like, flash and athleticism and skill versus we just are a great team.
Right. That would make my world,
like,
dude.
It would be like everything that's right about college basketball versus, and I don't say this lightly, everything that's wrong with college basketball.
Bro, yeah. It's interesting. Is there any other like matchups you're looking at in the Sweet 16 that kind of catch your attention?
Oh, man.
Or were there any? All right, I want to bring this up. We're talking about teams. I think that Marquise Noel, his performance
wait, are you
touched
talking
my
about the little
soul.
kid?
The little guy on the court, dude. All right, so I come up with when And1 mixtapes were like the shit, dude. Like that was my era. So watching Marquise Noel just channel his inner Skip to My Lou made my heart so full. And just watching them play, and then the Florida Atlantic. Like I know a lot of people were on them for how that game ended. I love it. Throw the dunk down. Talk trash.
You gotta make the dunk, though.
I don't care. You went for it. It would have been better it would have been better. Like
you want a showboat? Show that you can boat.
I don't care, dude. It was about setting the energy. A lot of people hate it. I loved it. I'm into that kind of stuff. I want drama. I want Rucker Park. I want like, dude, I don't give a damn about like, just give me that. And Marquise Noel and Florida Atlantic have made my basketball year.
So what do you think of this Calipari versus Jerome Tang stuff where Calipari calls Marquise Noel the little kid? And from what I believe, Jerome Tang heard it because he was waiting outside.
Yeah, he heard it.
Like, heard it before his little bit about how we have more dudes than they do, and their old guys ain't coming through the door and helping them win.
I love it because I love Jerome Tang. I think that kind of shows he's not going to put up with crap from anybody. I don't care if you're a blue blood. I don't care how many national championships you have. I don't care how many people you've put into the NBA. I'm going to do it my way and my culture's stronger than your culture. And I think right now, I don't care. I think Jerome Tang will have his tenure as a head coach wherever he goes. The culture will be better than anything John Calipari will ever put together in his life as a head coach. He can put out stars. He has pathetic culture, and that carries over. You haven't really won crap at Kentucky since John Wall and them. You go back and look at everything that happened prior to that and all of the missteps at Memphis, where, I'm talking about, you had all of that going on. And then now you can't get it together. You rely on one and dones. And you're dealing with players that really aren't bought into you. You have the number 1 recruiting class come in next year, but you're still going to flop because it's just you don't have the discipline. You don't have the culture. I don't think he knows how to coach as a whole team, get everybody bought in. He can say, okay, well, you're a star, go out, play somebody else. But when you have to get down to it and it gets into the nitty gritty and it gets down to technical things and how am I going to match this game up and make the right decisions, I don't think he can do it.
Yeah. I really don't have much to add, Matt, because I agree. But I want to look ahead in the tournament a little. You were asking about good Sweet 16 matchups, and I'm kind of thinking, like, who do I really believe in to make the Final Four at this point? And I'm looking at a couple teams, honestly, that I really believe will make the Final Four. That's UConn and Texas.
Oh, dude, yeah.
They're both playing well. As much as I don't want to give it to Texas, they're convincing.
I like Texas. I think Rodney Terry is doing a tremendous job there. I think that if he doesn't get named the head coach, then that is just completely ridiculous.
He's got it at this point.
I don't truly trust that. I don't. In a logical world where Texas athletic department does not know how to work, you're not going to hire Rodney Terry. They're going to try to go get a John Calipari because it's the splash. It's the name. If you put him in place, dude, and cut him loose, they can win national championships in Texas. I don't trust their Chris Del Conte and the people who have the money to actually logically do that just because they're not. That's just not how they operate. If they did it, tremendous. I'm happy for them. I think that right now they're kind of like the epitome of how you win in college athletic or college basketball because you get old. You have skill players, and while NIL is involved, it's at the same time, it's not the most important thing because you have a sound culture there that people are buying into, and it's really interesting to see. If Texas wins the national championship, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they will, but it wouldn't be surprised. Surprise me.
It would not surprise me. It would hurt me deeply, but it would not surprise me. And then we could have this great discussion about what's the rank of basketball programs in Texas. This was a segment we had thought of doing a while back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we waited.
Because it was like, okay, you've got Houston and Baylor who seem to be clearly the top two. Texas is getting in that conversation right now.
Yep.
Like, it'll be tough to say if they lose this game to Xavier, it's going to be tough to say they really bridged any part of that gap. Sweet 16's nice.
Dude, they haven't. They've made the Sweet 16. Like they.
That's what I'm saying. They've made the Sweet 16 not much more. But if they go much further, if they make it out of this next weekend, they make a Final Four, then you got to be like, they're scary. They are the bluest of blood as far as like when you think of blue blood like money.
That's the scary part.
That's
because
the scary part.
When they start throwing them,
they've got the money. They've got the coolest town in Texas. As weird as it is,
I love Austin.
People want to go to Austin. It's not for everyone, but if you're a crazy skilled basketball player, seems like it might be your kind of town. So more so than Waco, probably a little more so than Houston, unless you're, I don't know, James Harden. My point is, Texas is scary, and we'll see where all that goes. Who are you scared of not going much further in this tournament? Because like Kansas State and Michigan State, Tom Izzo, I love Jerome Tang. I think they've got more skill and talent, but Izzo knows how to win.
He does know how to win. I think it's one of those things where right now I believe I saw something out there. He's like one of the winningest head coach still coaching in the tournament right now. Michigan State's been there before. Like I feel like they're one of those programs like Syracuse that you know them. They're always in the mix, but they somehow find a way to mess it up. And I think they can get past Kansas State. I think Kansas State has a lot of they put on such a show. Like I don't know how you match that energy. I know you had some time off and everything. Are you going to see the bright lights in New York and get nervous? Like that. So those are some, and while Marquise Noel's going home and he wants to put on a show, I mean, there's that angle, but I can see Michigan State moving on, but I don't see Michigan State making it to the Final Four.
Me neither necessarily. They're in the bracket to make it, though. If they beat Kansas State, they're going to have to face FAU or Tennessee. Tennessee's a great defensive team.
Yeah,
but
that's a good point.
Without their point guard. Like, I think that's wide open. I think Kansas State's a favorite out of that, and I am nervous that they won't make it out of that. Similar to probably my other one would be Houston. Houston is not. There's something about Houston. As much as they've won and they've pulled away, they found a way to do it. There's something that's not convincing, and with Texas in their bracket, I am concerned if I'm a Houston fan.
Yeah, and I don't want to overlook this game with Miami either because I think Miami's one of those teams who – what's funny about Miami is I think what you see with this Miami basketball team, and you could really even go over to the women's team as well, is they're having that NIL success that they were hoping the football team would have off the jump. But it's a little different when you only have to pay like 10 people and you don't have to pay like 53.
Yeah.
So you're starting to reap the rewards of that. And I know a lot of people probably hate that about this Miami team. I love Nigel Pack. I loved watching him when he was at Kansas State. I wish he would have stayed. Obviously, I'm not going to knock him for doing what he did, whatever floats your boat. But I think it would have been really cool to see him in Jerome Tame's offense. But at the same time, look, it's not for everybody. I know a lot of people are going to look at the Miami team. They're going to hate on it because of the circumstances, how it's put together. But I think they're a really fun group. I don't necessarily think they can beat Houston, but I think it'll be like a 1 or 2 possession game.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. That's not a game I'm overlooking, but I do think that the defensive dogs on Houston are going to slow down those 2 great guards for Miami.
They should.
I am expecting a Houston versus Texas Elite 8 matchup, and that is going to get this state rocking. Because, again, we are in Texas, in case you forgot. Anyway, that's all I have on March Madness. You got anything?
I do. So this is one thing I want to bring up, because every year when March Madness comes around, we see the upsets, right? And it's great. I love it.
Oh, don't mention Purdue. I was trying to avoid them.
No, I wasn't. I was going to let Purdue slide. I mean, you could really break that down in many ways.
You really shouldn't.
But I'm going to let Purdue slide, even though they just epically failed. Like, I don't understand that process. Cool. Go win the Big Ten every year. Actually win some damn tournament games. But Rick Pitino, all right, so every year when we see these runs, coaching changes are going to come. So Rick Pitino, while they didn't make a run with Iona, he takes the job at St. John's. And I think that's really intriguing, because you go to the mecca of college basketball. You're playing all your games in the Garden. I don't know necessarily how much that's really going to do for them in the long run. I think they can make things interesting, but at the same time, that opens up Iona. And with that, you get Tobin Anderson, who took Fairleigh Dickinson on the run, and now he's your head coach at Iona, replacing Pitino. Some more coaching news to come out. Providence is going to be, I don't know if they found a coach yet or not, but Ed Cooley chunked the deuce. He's going to Georgetown.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people are probably looking at this, and it pissed a lot of people off, honestly. But I think that you could kind of look at it from right now and say, maybe is that a lateral move? But for me, I know the history. I know that Coach Thompson was a big influence on Ed Cooley and somebody he looked up to, Coach John Thompson from Georgetown. So I think being able to follow in those footsteps is really awesome, and an opportunity that I'm excited to see what he can do with the Hoyas, because to me, basketball is great when you have programs like Georgetown in the mix. I've always had a soft spot for the Hoyas. And
I agree, and just to piggyback off that, DC is an amazingly fertile recruiting
freaking
ground.
Awesome city, too.
Georgetown has more resources than Providence does. Cooley was fighting for resources that he won't have to fight for at Georgetown when he was at Providence.
Yeah.
So that seems like an upgrade for Cooley. It's crazy to me that he left Providence, a place that he really helped build, but it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and it'll be great to have Georgetown hopefully back in the tournament.
I hope so, man. It's been way too long. And then one more coaching change that is official. Paul Mills, the Scott Drew coaching tree continues to flourish, because after what he was able to do with Oral Roberts, he now has taken the job at Wichita State, which is one of those programs kind of, they're like a Creighton. They're always in the mix. They're dangerous. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do up there. I think he'll have the Shockers rolling within a couple of years. And then one to keep an eye on, I don't know if it's official, but the smoke is out there for another Scott Drew guy, Grant McCaslin, the possibility of taking over at Texas Tech. He spent time at Texas Tech. I think that would be an excellent hire for the Red Raiders, but not necessarily for Coach Drew, because he's gone out of his way for so long to not have to play people he's close to.
He hates playing people he
And
considers
now,
family.
dude, it would be brutal for Drew, but I know that ultimately it's one of those things that it would make him proud. He's going to be very proud, but those are some of the things I wanted to touch on, some of the coaching changes and stuff building off of that.
Yeah, and some of the reasons for those coaching changes and some of the fallout from some Big 12 coaching changes, like Beard leaving Texas Tech, Beard leaving Texas, and Mark Adams leaving Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Sorry, Beard left Texas Tech a while ago. Some of that fallout has carried over into the SEC. And we're going to go take a deep look at what the heck is going on in the SEC and what exactly do they mean when they say it just means more.
What up, everybody? Welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Garrett Ross alongside Jack Mackenzie, and we're going to put a bow on the show with this fun little segment here called SEC Dysfunction. And talking about this is always interesting because, like I said, I'm an LSU fan when it comes to really mainly football, baseball, whatever. I know they're great. They're winning the Natty, but I'm kind of in and out when it comes to baseball. But the famous saying, Jack, when it comes to the SEC is it just means more. And, you know, from a football perspective, and I really think from an athletic perspective as a whole, when you look kind of like what they've been able to accomplish on the basketball court, whether it's men's or women's, like baseball, they have the championships. They got the trophies stacked up across the boards when it comes to athletics. But at what cost are we doing this?
Yeah, what else stacks up, Garrett?
So I was thinking about this because there's always drama. Like, you used to see it a lot, and you still do in the NFL. Like, every offseason, it was, well, what the hell is going to unfold? So I went back and looked at a few things that have happened in the SEC as of late. And I'm going to name them off, and I want to let you start where we're going. But here's a few of the things that have caught my attention out of the SEC as of late. LSU football gangbang before the bowl game involving staff and Keyshawn Boutte, ironically. Brian Kelly's marriage getting put in a bond, like it was a divorce and then it's not. And then there's a whole, you could dig into that because Ed Orgeron had marital issues. Les Miles had some marital issues. There's something going on in Baton Rouge with that. Then let's head to Georgia. Okay, cool. You win a natty. You win two back-to-back natties in football. Well, you got players racing and staff members getting killed. Your quarterback is a drunken mess when he's supposed to be preparing for the NFL draft and gets arrested. And then let's head to Bama. Oh, cool. You're going to win a national championship in basketball. You got a good chance, but your best player freaking took a gun to somebody getting murdered. And you have people wearing killing our way through the SEC shirts. That's just really cool.
Yeah, don't forget the murderer was on the team.
Oh, it was, yeah, the murderer was on the team. Okay. And then just recently with the football team at Alabama, you have a 5-star player doing 141 with multiple grams of weed, $7,000 in cash, and a loaded gun. I'll be damned. Wonder what he was doing there. Then let's go to Florida. Oh, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with our quarterback room. Oh, wait, one of our quarterbacks is a pedophile and has child porn on his computer. Great. Let's keep looking. Oh, we're Auburn. We need a football coach. Hey, let's get Hugh Freeze. He knows his way around the SEC. Oh, what did he do? Used his cell phone to get prostitutes while preaching the gospel. Hallelujah. And then Ole Miss. What do you do for your basketball coach? Hey, you know what? There's this guy in Texas who just got in trouble for beating his wife, but legally got a loophole around it and didn't get in trouble because magically she says everything's okay. Let's bring him on down. Oh, wait, and then A&M? Okay, let's figure out how we're going to hire people for our football staff. Let's get DJ Durkin, who murdered a kid in practice at Maryland. And then when Jimbo finally has to be told, your offense sucks because it's outdated, we need to turn things over and get an offensive coordinator in here. Oh, let's get Bobby Petrino, whose famous picture is him in a neck brace because he had a damn GA student on the back of a motorcycle that he wrecked, and he chunked a deuce to the Atlanta Falcons in the middle of the night, leaving a damn letter in the locker and riding out like Paul Revere. Like, where do you want to start, bro? Where do you want to start?
One, you just went for 3 minutes, and there was no break, which is amazing. It's incredible. And let's start with Bama, because we just came out of a March Madness segment. That is probably the most pressing story right now. And it's a capital murder case.
Yeah.
Involving a 5-star top NBA prospect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where to begin with
but it was the wrong place, wrong time, Jack.
It's however familiar you are with guns, I'm just sitting here being like, how do you not always know where a gun is? How do you have, like, do you have a gun just, oh, it's just buried under the crap in my back seat? Or is it, yeah, I've got a gun hidden under this pile of crap in my back seat?
Oh, you know what it was.
Yeah, I know what it was. That's what I'm saying. Like, It makes no sense. And the way they've handled the media around all of this.
It's disgusting.
Like, obviously, you kick the guy who got accused of capital murder off the team. Like, yeah, that was simple enough. Good, Bama, you got that one. Check. You don't do shit to the guy who delivered the murder weapon. Whether you want to say knowingly or not, the murder weapon would not have gotten there if he hadn't physically gotten it there.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope I don't have the facts wrong on this, but I believe he was heading there already when he got the text. So even if he did not know he had the murder weapon, he was heading to the scene of a crime because he's friends with a capital murderer. It blows my mind. And then Nate Oates just goes up on the podium and just gets kind of flippant with the media. And he's just like, it's like he thinks he can use the typical, like, this is not a typical problem. You've got to use more
but they prayed about it at half court.
Yeah, was that before or after the walk-on patted down Brandon Miller?
Oh, that was before the pat down.
Like, every single step, it seems like they have lacked the forethought. They haven't taken the time to think through, how is this going to sound? We need to treat this like it's a serious matter, because it's a serious matter, and they just haven't. I don't know how I can even get to the rest of the SEC stuff right now, because this is, oh, man, it's insane.
So the funny thing, well, none of this is funny, but I think that when you go back to the Ole Miss situation and bringing in Chris Beard, it was uniquely timed how they took the TCU approach when introducing him, as they bring Chris Beard out. Like, all right, for instance, if I'm referencing TCU, when they brought in Kendall Browse, controversially, and the picture that they put out after they really did limited social media stuff was all his wife and his daughters in front of him on the plane. He's barely in the back that you can see him.
Literally a human shield.
You can barely see him. Okay. Ole Miss is like, oh, that worked for them. Let's try it. So they bring Chris Beard out with his daughters in the front, and we're taking this pretty little picture.
It work,
dude. It's so ridiculous, and it's ignorant, and it just shows the fact that if wins mean more to human lives than human lives, wins mean more than academics, wins mean more. It's so freaking disgusting, and that's really I struggle watching sports and enjoying sports because of the shit like this at times. And then the A&M aspect is funny because this is the thing where Jimbo, they forced Jimbo's hand into hiring somebody else. And of course, ironically, you bring in Petrino. You can't make that. I think he was looking at this like, okay, I have a relationship to this guy at some extent. We'll just kind of make this work. They held their first spring practice yesterday, and he cuts reporters off and is trying to like say, well, we're just shut up, don't ask about it. We're just going to kind of deal with it. And then he was asked again, and he kind of said, well, we'll figure out who's going to make the play calls. We'll figure out who's going to call the plays. When the whole purpose of this was you were told you can't call plays. And then he started backtracking. It's already friction. It's already drama for a program who can't really afford drama at this point, especially with all the freaking NIL money thrown in there. And you've lost half your recruiting class from last year, that was your historic class, because of eligibility and just freaking issues of racing with Denver Harris flying around which now he's in Baton Rouge. So that's Brian Kelly's problem to deal with.
Brian Kelly's got enough problems.
There's just so much of this. It's hard.
I honestly, I don't want to go one by one through all these things, but if any of y'all have heard Nick Saban's presser at the start of their spring practices, honestly, at first when I heard it, I was like, oh man, he is taking some shots at Nate Oates. He is tired of the extra scrutiny that the basketball program at his school has brought onto his football program.
That's the thing.
And then I'm like, wait, it's a message for the whole dang SEC. He is. I don't know if Saban meant it as more than just for the basketball program, but it applies to the whole SEC. It's amazing how much, even myself, I'm just kind of like, well, that's what you get there. their win at all costs. Well, you know.
That's the messed up part about all this. It's like everybody's numbed to the ignorance, and everybody's
like
numbed.
It doesn't seem abnormal.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that's just what they do.
You hear about the pre-bowl gangbang from LSU, and you're just like, oh, man, they're crazy down there.
Yeah, Mardi Gras came early.
Like, it blows my mind.
It's ridiculous, dude. But at the end of the day, I guess if you keep racking up natties and you keep winning, you can do whatever the hell you want. But something's got to give. Something's got to stop. But
it's across the whole conference.
It's across everywhere. It's just over there. I think you're going to see more and more of it too. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on with all this NIL and throwing money around to people who don't have a good concept. Like if you would have given me millions of dollars when I was 20, there's no telling what I would have done. It would not have been good. I would have done some stupid stuff.
Get ready for morality clauses in NIL contracts.
You're going to see.
If they're not already there.
Because I just think there's too many parallels to some of the things that are happening across the board that you can draw the conclusion to. It starts with NIL in a lot of these situations. That's a topic for another day. But that's all I have on the SEC. Do you have anything before we roll?
I don't really want to die. Like, it's concerning. I know it doesn't only happen in the SEC. I'm not trying to say it does. It's just really concerning how public, how often, and how mishandled it seems all of these situations are.
Yep.
And I will say the coaching hires seem to happen more in the SEC. That's another thing. The players and the money with all that. There is a certain amount of what can you expect from people who have not used to having money and freedom, all of a sudden going off to college, being away from their support system, having to find a new support system, and having a lot of money and success to go along with it. That, I don't want to say it's understandable when it gets to the heights of you're driving 141, killing people, any of that. That's crazy. That's not understandable at all. The smaller things are understandable, though. And it's always much more understandable when it's someone young and someone not used to the situation around them. When you're talking about adults in the room, when you're talking about a guy like Durkin, who literally ran a kid too hard and he died, and then he gets hired by 2 different SEC schools because he was at Ole Miss first. Petrino, all that, like you can put stuff behind you. I want to give people second chances, but it just seems crazy to me that Ole Miss has hired Durkin, Freeze, and now Beard. Like, they do not care. They are like, I want to win. Do whatever the hell you want. As long as we can still play for the championship games. Like, the SEC has to be better about the adults and the leaders they bring in, because you're not going to be able to flush out all of the issues with young kids, with kids, with young adults, with people who just cannot be expected to know how to handle everything. The adults in the room need to be better, which means the adults who hire those adults need to be better about hiring the right types of people.
They do. They do. And we'll see if that ever happens. I think it's going to be a while, because I think it's a bigger issue than that. And I think it's kind of reflective of where we're at as a country. But anyway, so that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you listening. We will be back next week, and we will look back at the Sweet 16 as that gets started tomorrow night. But this has been the College Chaos Podcast here, powered by 365 Sports.